A very warm good morning to all the attendees of this webinar titled Rediscover Efficiency Using Office 365. I'm Sapna Bhardwaj. Today's webinar will allow you to be the master of your time, and this webinar will help you find out how. Rediscover your working potential and efficiency with Office 365. Thank you attendees for joining us. Our exclusive webinar on unleashing the pool of knowledge with Office 365, where our expert, Dr. Nitin Paranjape, efficiency guru and most valuable professional office and Office 365, will take you through a plethora of possibilities to help you achieve your business goals. First, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Nitin Paranjape. He is an acknowledged business efficiency guru, is among the chosen few Microsoft most valuable professionals worldwide in recognition of his extensive work on the Microsoft platform. He specializes in optimizing unstructured work, which transforms efficiency across the organization. Dr. Paranjape is consulted by top teams of multinationals in private, public, and government sectors to realize full potential of the investments in Microsoft Office platforms by effectively using Microsoft technologies, thereby saving valuable time and effort substantially. A gynecologist by qualification, Dr. Paranjape, while practicing medicine in a Mumbai hospital for 3 years, created several innovative patient monitoring systems for use in cardiology and gynecology and founded Maestros Medline Systems in 1992, a medical embedded systems company which designs and manufactures high-end medical devices. Dr. Paranjape's fascination for technology led to the creation of a boutique consulting firm, Max Office, that focuses on efficiency transformation in organizations using Microsoft Office platform. Having coached over 140,000 professionals in nearly 1,000 organizations worldwide, he enjoys the status of a business productivity guru. Using the same simple methodology and a host of real-life examples, he has authored over 1,000 articles on the benefits of using Microsoft technologies and Microsoft Office platform. Well, it's over to you, Dr. Paranjape. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Warm welcome to all the participants. It's great to have all of you here. In the next hour, we are going to explore how you can improve your efficiency in your day-to-day work using Microsoft Office. But as you must be noticing, it's not just Office, which we are used to for many years. It's called Office 365. So let's get some terminologies clear. One more thing, this session is getting recorded and you will get the recording after the session. If you have any questions in mind, feel free to type them in the question panel. I may not answer all the questions during the session, but I will answer every question at the end of the session. Okay, so let's look at what really efficiency means. If you have attended my session before, you must have known that I use simple terms. I don't use jargon as much as possible because that simplifies learning. So in very simple terms, efficiency means whatever work we do, we must do it in the fastest, smartest, and best possible way because time is always in short supply. In the context of Office, it also means that with minimum effort, we should be able to get maximum impact. You'll realize that we use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and various other products, but the amount of time we spend may not be spent well. For example, if you take Word, the content is more important, but we spend more time in formatting. In Excel, analysis of data is more important, but we end up spending more time in cleaning up the data. Similarly, in PowerPoint, the content is important, but the formatting and the animation and the alignments and all those things take too much time. If you understand the concept of Six Sigma, you will realize that we spend too much time in non-value adding work, and that leaves us less time to do value-adding work. With that, let's look at the components of Office 365. Some of you may already be using it, but for those who have not seen it, each of these boxes is a component of Office 365. Of course, it comes in various flavors. I'm talking about something called E3, which is consisting of Office, which still sits on your desktop, but now it can also be installed on mobile phones and tablets and iPads and all that. So some of these are obviously known to you. For example, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote, probably you'll realize or recognize. Of course, we know email, and earlier email as an Outlook had everything inside it. Now there are separate boxes, one for mail, one for calendar, one for contacts, and tasks. Now there are some things which are new here, at least new for some of you, one of which is OneDrive. OneDrive is basically your My Documents, which has moved to the cloud. Yammer is like a social network within your organization. And for teamwork, we have Sites. There are a couple of other products, Delve and Sway. Let me explain what those do. Delve I'll explain later. Sway is another way of creating great communication. I won't say it is an alternative to PowerPoint, it is an adjunct to PowerPoint. It allows you to create very nice, visually compelling things with absolutely no effort put in formatting. We will see some of it as and when we go ahead and if time permits. So with this in mind, let's look at one component which is not shown here, and that's called Skype for Business. Skype for Business, if you have seen before, this is earlier something which was called Link. Now it is called Skype for Business. Skype for Business is basically like the free version of Skype, which we use for personal work. This is the business aspect of it. What does that mean? It does have chat. For example, I can go ahead, double click on something and start chatting. Now there are enough number of chat applications available out there in the market. So what is the for business part mean? Now remember, suppose you wanted to ask your boss for some approval and you were chatting on some public chat. It could be WhatsApp, Google Talk, Skype free version itself. You ask the boss types something, and then boss says, okay, go ahead and do it. Later on, if there is a dispute, boss can always say, I never told you, because the chat transcript of a public chat has no legal value. So the key difference between all other things and Skype for Business is everything which is going on the chat is actually getting archived on the server. It is getting archived on the server. So that becomes legal proof. Very often you must have asked someone, why don't you put it on mail? Because you want that legal assurance. Exactly the same thing now happens in the context of Skype for Business. Now that we know that, think about how to use it practically. Suppose I'm in Outlook and I'm about to send a mail to someone. I'm just going to create a new mail and I'm sending a mail to someone. Now notice, as soon as I do that, I see that red color or some color icon here. What does this mean? This person is currently busy. Now suppose I was not busy and I'm just going to do it on my machine itself. It is showing me as busy because I'm conducting a webinar, but I'm forcibly going to change my status. So look at the status is available. Green means available and red and yellow have different meanings. Now let's say this person was sending me a mail and that person noticed that I'm free. And if you want those inputs immediately and you still want them to be a legal permissible evidence, instead of sending this mail, I'm just taking my cursor to my name here and I can start chatting and finish off the conversation there and then. What is the benefit? The conversation may have been exactly the same, but mail essentially is slow process. If you want immediate inputs, you don't need to use mail now. You can use Skype for Business. Now let's say this discussion is continuing, but I need some clarification which requires a voice call. While the conversation is going on, I can convert it to a voice or a video call and continue. So it gives you more flexibility. Now this is not a great in-depth training on what Skype for Business does, but I just showed you some functionality. Many of you may like it, many of you may already be using it. The issue is, has it changed our behavior? What I've observed is customers who do have Skype for Business as well continue to use email even if they see that green mark. And that is where technology, in spite of having it, doesn't get utilized fully. So there is another component which is important called Yammer, which I will come to later, but I want to illustrate one aspect here. Many features will be shown during the demo and you may have discovered them yourself. But unless we come out of our comfort zone and utilize the correct feature in the correct place, you will not get the benefits of what we are using. Look at the table here. On the left side, we have common activities which we do on a daily basis. On the right side, if this slide was being shown to you say 10 years back, on the recommended method side, almost every one of these would be email, 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 or of course in-person meeting in some cases. But now notice the activities on the left side have not changed over a period of years, but the recommended methods have changed. In fact, you will see email being used only in 2 scenarios. In all other scenarios, there is a better option available. So essentially, Office 365 is a collection of such better options which improve the way we do our work. I'm not going to explain each row here. Of course, it is getting recorded and you can refer back to it later. But the idea is having the technology is step number 1, understand its benefits, step number 2, and then mapping it to something which we already do. And that is the most important step. All right, so let's go further. Now, one more thing has changed over a period of time. Earlier, when we say work, it always meant work on a PC or a laptop. I'm sure it still goes on, but that's not the only option available now. Now we can work, first of all, anywhere, not necessarily stuck to a desktop in your cabin or on your floor. You can also work everywhere and using any device. Most of the products which I'm showing are available, in fact all of them are available on all platforms now, not just Windows. So whether it's Windows Phone, Android or iPhone, iPad, doesn't matter. That increases the amount of flexibility you get. What does that mean? Earlier we were stuck to a particular location to do real work. Now, irrespective of where you are, you can be equally effective and productive. All right. Now, the biggest enemy in imbibing and utilizing all these technologies is called My Documents. Just have a look at this. What am I showing you here? For many years we have been using My Documents and we are used to it, so used to it that the thought of putting our documents somewhere else is making us jittery. The problem is earlier we had only that option. Now we have many other options, but why should we move away from something which we are really used to? The reason is very simple. This thing called My Documents is dangerous because My Documents is stored typically on my machine, whatever that machine, PC, laptop is. And those hard disks are still vulnerable, much lesser than before, but definitely they can fail. And we generally don't have the discipline of taking backup. Even if you are a large organization, it is not IT's job to take backup of local disks. It is individual person's responsibility. Everyone knows that, but nobody actually follows the discipline. So if you have put hard work in creating so many documents, it is not worth keeping them in a failure-prone place. That is the first thing. Second, we have talked about is stuck to PC. But the third one is equally important. Till now, we have been used to the concept of creating the document, storing it in that possessive place called My Documents, and then thinking about what to do about it. In real life, there is nothing like My Documents. I may create it, but sooner or later someone else is involved. And how do we get that other person or persons involved? By sending CC and attachment. And that's where the problem starts, because if I want inputs on my document, I should not be sending CCs. That was a compromise in earlier days when email was the only method of communication. The moment I attach a file, it becomes a copy. it's not the same file. So the word sharing doesn't really apply there. We are making too many copies and then people reply and then you copy paste, and very soon the same document has so many copies floating around, we get confused. So now the concept has changed, and some of you may have seen this video, but I'm still showing it again because this is the most important mindset change you have to do in order to utilize these new tools better. So we are the same, one person. Let's talk about individual. My files, where should I store? I should store in one place. Yes, earlier also I was storing it in one place called My Documents, but that's not true because we had hundreds of copies in CCs and attachments in various mailboxes. And of course, at all times, even if I'm sharing it with people, it should be only one copy. And all these is now possible using something called OneDrive. Now again, OneDrive is having a free version and a business version. Free version gives you 7 GB of space, I think. And OneDrive for Business, which is a part of Office 365, which is designed for corporate work. It gives you 1 terabyte of space. Now, apart from space, of course, there are lots of free drives other than Microsoft, like Google Drive, Dropbox, Box, and so on, which give you a lot of space as well. The difference here is this is not just space. There are many other features which we'll explore very soon. And of course, it is 1 terabyte. Now, the issue is this is available to you. But unless you change your mindset, what will you end up doing? You will first create a file, store it on My Documents, and then upload it into OneDrive. Probably many of us do that with the free versions of drives we get outside as well. And that's the wrong way of doing it, because we have said one copy. The moment you store locally and then upload it, we already created 2 copies, defeating the whole purpose. So let's see what happens when you store a file on OneDrive, and in the process I'm also going to show you a feature of Word. So let's say I have this document here. I know that there is a delay between when I'm showing something and when you actually see, and there may be a delay between the speech and the visual. I have another machine next to me, so I'm trying to adjust that delay as much as possible, but in some cases, depending on the bandwidth available at your end, there may be some incongruity. Just bear with me on that. Okay, so I have a document here. By the way, do you notice that this is called heading 1? This is the way you should create Word documents. You should not format anything manually. You should inform Word to format it according to what you want. So this is the main topic. That's why I put heading 1. If there was a subtopic, for example, if solution was subtopic, I would have said heading 2. Like that, up to 9 levels are available. Now, what is the benefit of this? I get what is called as a document map or a navigation pane here in the view menu. This shows me the structure of the document. So I can go to any part of the document very quickly. This is a small demo document, but in real big documents, this is a great benefit. Just to show you that quickly, this is a large document. Now, look at the headings and subheadings it has. This list itself is scrolling. Now, if you get such a big document, even that navigation pane itself requires further navigation. Now, what do we do? So remember, whenever you don't know something, but you want some facility there, don't give up. Just right click. Look at all the options, and then most probably Microsoft would have thought of it before, and you would find the solution. So remember, right click is your simplest way of learning. Right click is answering a question which we often have never asked. The question being, what can I do here? Here meaning the place where I right clicked. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to say, I don't want to see all these levels. Show me only the top level headings. And notice this is still a 110-page document, but now it is much more manageable for at least getting an overall picture. And then I can go and look at various aspects. I can go to a particular place. I can go to further drill down and then reach that place, which happened to be page 72 in 3 clicks. Never mind, this is not a word session, but I want to show you the benefit of using styles. Now I have a document, okay, and I want to get this document with inputs from someone else. Usually we would have sent it as CC, but now I'm going to click on the share button. This is Office 2016, that's why you see the share button here. In earlier versions, the share button would be here. In either case, what it does is it allows you to decide whom do you want to share it with. So you just type the email ID of the same person whom you would otherwise have sent a mail to. And I have already done that, but more importantly, for the first time in life, you are getting this benefit. The document is still one copy. It's stored on your OneDrive and you are controlling access to it. This is never possible if you had, this would not have been possible if you had sent it as an attachment, because that's a copy and that copy is completely under the control of that recipient. Now you may forget whom you have shared things with, so it actually shows you a list of those people as well. And if you want, when their job is done, you can even remove their permission so that later on you have full control established. Now I have already done this. Now what happens on the other side? Let's look at that. I have already shared it. I am going to go on a browser now. This is Chrome browser, just to show you that everything works in a browser neutral manner now. This is the inbox of that user called demo. And this person has received an email saying Dr. Nitin has shared this document with. Now if I open that mail, notice there is no attachment, it's just a hyperlink. This is the benefit, because very often our documents are large and all messaging systems, including Office 365 and Outlook, has a limit on maximum size of email you can attach. By default that size is 20 MB. That is configurable, but it will still be some kind of limit. Now here what is happening, irrespective of how big the file is, we are not sending the file at all, so it doesn't matter. Now I'm sure you must have noticed within your organization itself, when it comes to sending a large file, which is not possible to do using email, many of us use Google Drive, Dropbox, even free version of OneDrive or some kind of cloud storage. That may technically be okay, but that is not probably your company policy, because those are comparatively not secure from a corporate point of view. Whereas OneDrive for Business is designed with corporate security in mind. All the standards which are in vogue currently about corporate document security, privacy, accountability, compliance, auditing, archival, all those are being followed by Microsoft. So it's, although the name of OneDrive Free and OneDrive for Business may be similar, there is a vast difference in the technology sitting behind it. Besides, if your hard disk fails, Microsoft's hard disk can also fail. So every document you store on OneDrive for Business is copied to 3 physically different locations. So there cannot possibly be a natural disaster affecting all those 3 locations. In India, those locations are Bombay, Pune and Chennai, I think. But this works worldwide as well. So now when I click on this document in Chrome browser, this is opened in Word Online, which is browser-based editing. So I'm going to say edit. Notice I get 2 choices. If I have Word installed, I can edit in Word and I get all the features. But even if I have Word installed, if I just want to do quick editing, reviewing, put few comments, look at what people have done and make few corrections, then it still makes sense to edit in online. Why is that? Because if it's a large document and if I say edit in Word, it's going to require a lot of time to download the document first and then edit. You get full features, but it's going to be slower. Online, the document is opening on the server. So I'm going to say online. This is not a big document, but I want to show you something else. Now notice this is the user called demo, and as soon as this person edited, that person saw a message that someone else is editing it. We didn't plan to be there simultaneously, but it happened to be there. But now that we are there, we should know about it. When I came on the left side, which is Nitin editing the same document in full version of Word, it showed me that demo is editing it, and that share button has a number 2 there. And it will show you the names of people as well. So now let's see what happens. This is my cursor. This is my cursor here under solution. What is this blue thing? This is telling me where this guy called demo is. And look at it on the right side. There is a green tab which came, which is telling this other user where Nitin is editing. This is happening live. Although these windows are side by side, it's going through all kinds of servers and routers to make this happen. Now, when I type something here, I'm going to type something here and look at what happens on the right side. Notice this thing shows me what I typed, And if this person tries to edit the same paragraph simultaneously, all the buttons are inactive and I cannot type. Why? Because although simultaneous editing is a great feature, at the same time we don't want to confuse each other by editing the same paragraph. After some time, when I save this document, this paragraph will be released and then this person can type it. That is how this simultaneous editing works. Notice that paragraph is no longer locked now and the user called demo can edit it because my job is done. Now another nice thing is, if suppose this person was editing in conclusion, that blue marker on the left side, I don't know, because it's a large document, people can be editing anywhere. Now I showed you a navigation pane, view tab, navigation pane, and what happens here is, depending on where the other person is, and I'm just going to ask this guy to edit, notice what happened here. I saw an icon on my side as well in the navigation pane, and here I can see who is working. That is the level of sophistication. Internally it's very complex from a technical point of view, but from a user point of view it's very natural. This is how we get benefits. Now notice the benefit. What is the benefit really? I am going to be able to create a document with inputs from multiple people, and the quality of the document will be better because if I am typing, someone else is typing, there are no copies floating around. People can see what the other person has written. So there are iterations which were earlier required in the CC era are completely gone. So not only are we saving time, we are actually getting a better quality document. Now while we are there, let me also show you something else. Every time I change the document, it actually stores a version for that. So let's go to OneDrive, which is the web version of OneDrive. I'm just trying to show you how it looks. Normally, if you are sitting in Word, you can do it from Word itself, but just to show you. So this is my OneDrive. I'm going to refresh it because I just saved this document called webinar demo. So here is my document. I'm sure you can see that. Now if you click here, there is one very interesting feature called version history. Normally we maintain versions manually, and that's a very manual and laborious thing. Managing numbers is also difficult for versions. Now notice what happened. It has already remembered two versions. Comparing who did what is now easy. In fact, there are three versions because multiple times the document got saved. How did this happen? OneDrive for Business automatically manages versions. I have gone to this browser page just to show you how it looks, but in reality we are sitting in Word, and even if there are past versions, I should be able to not just see those versions, I should be able to compare the current version with a past version, which can be done as easily as this. Some of you may have actually gone to this menu before, Review tab and Compare. When you have two documents, original and revised, we go here. There are two options there, compare and combine. We know that. Some of you may know that at least. But notice those options are still there, but it has now special options here because this document is on OneDrive and it has past versions. So now if I say compare this with last version, it's actually going to fetch that previous version and give you a comparison here. And to save time, I'm going to show you how it looks. It shows it very nicely in three panes like this. Just give me a second. So what happens? On one side there is original and revised, merge document, and only the changes. And this happens live. So what we got is something like track changes showing you the difference between the two documents. So that is the level of sophistication. Now whatever I just showed you is possible with PowerPoint and OneDrive as well. Excel is a different ball game. Yes, of course simultaneous editing is permitted, but there is one limitation. All editors of the same Excel file must be using browser version only. Why is that? Because Excel is a complex product which has a lot of dependencies. If I change one cell in Excel, potentially millions of cells in multiple sheets across the workbook may change, and that level of sophistication is simply impossible to implement technically using the current web infrastructure. So let's go further. If there are any questions, you can keep typing them. I will try to address all of them at the end of the session. Now let's look at another aspect. I'm not saying never use email. In fact, if you use Office 365, you get 50 GB mailbox, which is welcome news for many customers and people, because they have generally had very small mailboxes, and most of the struggle used to be keeping that mailbox alive by preventing it from getting full every now and then. Now probably that part is taken care of, but that does not mean that you are going to use it correctly. Even if you have a large mailbox, doesn't mean you misuse it. What you should do is apply discretion, like I mentioned in the beginning. Decide if I'm just delivering a file, attach it. If I'm sharing a file, put it on OneDrive and then send the link. But there is one problem here, which is mails, genuine mails which you get. There will be lots of mails because let's say you have 1,000 people company. You want to do your work, you will send a mail to someone. Someone else wants something from you, they will send a mail to you. Fair enough, that's what happens. But look at the numbers. How many mails you send versus how many mails you receive. It's never going to be 50-50 because it's you versus the rest of them. And it's not only your employees, it could be other external parties, customers, government, whoever. So it is always a struggle. And Microsoft has created a great feature called Clutter to simplify that struggle. Idea is very simple. I need to be able to get my job done quickly by focusing on important mails. So I'm going to go to this mailbox of this person. This is a demo mailbox, so all the mails probably are not very nice, but just for demo purpose. Now notice, if I have lots of mails, every time to read a mail, decide whether it is required or not, takes some time for me. And then I realize this is not important, I wasted that time. So I need a method by which only important mails remain miraculously somehow without me putting any effort, and that feature is called Clutter. So what do? You go to Inbox and then you go to Options, and under Options there are of course lots and lots of options. You just focus on one of them right now. What is this? This is called Clutter, and enable this particular checkbox. What happens because of that? Separate items identified as clutter. In fact, it may even show you whether it has detected something late earlier, but never mind. Let's understand what happens now. The moment I do enabling of clutter, what happens? It actually enables that folder, and I see that particular folder in my mailbox. So sorry, I did not save it. Just give me a second. I say enable, save, and done. So now when I go back, what happens is, if I see my folders, I will see after a little while I'll see a folder here called clutter. And what happens in that clutter folder? On day one there will be only one message, but now it is going to observe the way in which you are handling your mailbox. It is going to understand and learn your pattern of working by understanding the content and what actions you take, which mails you go to more, which mails you tend to ignore, and then it learns. And once it learns, it actually is going to automatically transfer mails which that system thinks is less important into clutter. That system is artificial intelligence. You don't have to worry about privacy. There is nobody sitting in Microsoft call center or some outsource agency looking at your mails and deciding. There is no human involved there. So complete confidentiality is absolutely guaranteed. This machine learning thing is smart, but it takes time to learn. So initially it may make mistakes. So you have to start using this feature. There is another feature, of course, which can help you understand which mails are even more important. The concept is very simple. If your name is the only name in the email, that means the sender depends only on you for response. That is why this is implicitly important. So how do I identify mails which are of that type? What I really want is I should get something like this. You can choose a different color and use a different terminology, but I will only look at those high priority mails in the inbox. Clutter has already done some work, but on top of it I want to do this, and this is done by creating a rule. Some of you may already be using rules. So you go to rules and say manage rules and alerts and create a rule. What is the rule you create? New rule. Apply rule to all the incoming messages and ask Outlook to check for this condition. Sent only to me. These are implicitly important, and then ask Outlook what to do about it. Just flag them using a color which is called a category. In your case, if you have never used categories, you will get a collection of few colors, and the categories will be named as blue category, pink category, green category. Rename it. In my case, I have chosen this and renamed it as high, and that's how it is actually going to classify this. Once it is done, I right click on categories and group by it. So I get at least two categories in this case, those mails which have no color attached, that means less important, and those which are high priority, which are important. And that's how I get further benefit in terms of prioritizing my time. This is good. Of course, you can create more rules and integrate. So explore clutter along with some custom rules and life will be better. Now let's go to some other aspect, which is while I'm sending a mail, I still have that habit of attaching a file. So now what Microsoft does is, even if you're attaching a mail to an email, as we were doing earlier, it gives you a choice. Do you want to first store it on OneDrive and then send it? So start looking at those dialogues. Many people get irritated with these pop-ups and they just press escape. Don't do that. At every possible location, Microsoft is trying to help you understand, learn, and utilize the product better. Let me give you one example here. Let's say this was not a document stored on cloud right now. Let me create a new one so that will be easier. This is a fresh new document. I have not stored it anywhere and I am about to send it. I say share. I go to email. Now notice there are two options. This is the good old option, save as attachment, send as attachment. But below there is another option here called send a link. Of course, this is not available right now because it is not stored on the browser or on OneDrive. But if this document was stored on OneDrive, which is this one, notice what happens. Even if I use my old habit and go to share and I click on email, it is trying to tell me and convince me somehow that why don't you look at this bulleted list, understand the benefits, and don't send this as an attachment, send this as a link. Now remember, links can be sent to people outside the organization as well. So it's not a limitation. It's not that only useful within the company. So start noticing these things and start using them, and then you'll get better impact. Now we'll go to Excel. Excel has many nice things which have been newly introduced, but as I said earlier, if the data is not clean, everything else falls apart. So to save time, I'm going to show you a list of things. So this is a list of 10 10 commandments, so to say, which tell you which, when you get data, look at each of these items. If any of them is not correct, that means the input format of the data is not nice. Not nice means what? As soon as you get the data, it is in your interest to spend all the time and talent available with you in analyzing, understanding the data and acting on it. Obviously, that's going to lead to your growth. But if the data is in a bad format, we spend too much time cleaning it up. So if data comes and it does not require cleanup, it's the best thing. You can immediately create a pivot table or Power View, Power Map, whatever else, but no cleanup. So this is what I mean by no cleanup. If these parameters are there, if all these checkboxes are okay, then there is no cleanup required and we can start analyzing immediately without wasting time. If you don't get this kind of data, just send it back to whoever sent it to you asking for data in this form. Ideal data is in tabular form. Tabular form means what? Tabular form means very simple. Tabular means like a table. Each column must have a heading and there should be consistent data below. This is raw data. Remember, don't try to merge cells, don't try to put formatting in it, don't try to put subtotals. All that is output. Input should not have anything to do as far as looks are concerned with the output. Input should always look like this. So input is not supposed to look good, it's supposed to behave good in such a way that it allows you to create whatever output you want in the easiest and fastest possible method. Now having said that, let me give you an example of how things can go wrong and how Excel helps you in a brilliant manner. Now this is data, I have taken it from some public website about consumption of gas or oil across countries. So on this rows I have countries and on the columns I have years. So I have years all the way up to 2011. This is per capita consumption per person. Okay. Now this data is already there. There's nothing to process. It's actually like a pivot table in the way it is. Now I need to interpret it. How do I do it? If I zoom out like this, I can't make out anything out of it. If I try to make a chart, obviously that chart is going to be impossible. In fact, if I try to create a chart here, notice what happens. Excel will give me something like this. You see what this chart is? Doesn't mean much. It's going to be very, very confusing for me. So this is not the right way of understanding this data. In fact, in the traditional way of the way we create charts in Excel, there may not be an easy way to understand this. But now, first of all, I have to think, is it good data or bad data? Although it looks like a report, from our point of view, it has become an input. So it should not be in so many columns. If another year gets added, one more column will be added. That means data is growing horizontally. If data grows horizontally, it's bad. It should always grow vertically, which means I need 3 columns: country, year, and the value. How is this going to be happening? A single transpose will not work. In single transpose, it will put countries on rows and years on rows and countries on columns, which is not what we wanted. We want 3 columns. So it's like a row by row transpose, and that is now done using something called Power Query. I just pick up the data from here and choose the correct column. We don't want to disturb this column, but the remaining columns we want to just rotate in a bulk operation using a method called unpivot. So just right click on the good column and say those other columns are bad. Repair them by doing a global transpose operation on top of them. And in one click, your data gets cleaned. I've already done that to save time. And when we get data in good format, we can analyze it better. So this is the data in good format. I've also changed the year to 1/1 that so that it becomes like a date, and I've given proper names. Now, even now, it's still unreadable from an interpretation perspective. So now there is a beautiful option called Power Map. Power Map. In 2013, it is an add-in. In 2016, it is built in. So if you look at the Power Map, notice the same data is now being shown like this. Exactly the same data. Now let me show you how this was done so that you understand. I'm going to remove everything and then we will do this. So Power Map to start with gives you just a globe like this. Okay, we got a globe, we can put map labels on it, and now we want to plot something. We have only 3 columns. So we say add field, and country is the column which decides geography. So I do that. By the way, it understands lots of things about geography. It's a very sophisticated GIS kind of system, and the best part is every user of Excel can utilize it. I'm sure you have data in your organization which has locational information. It could be location where things were procured from, manufactured, distributed, purchased, whatever. In some cases, let's say you are a fertilizer company, you want to see where the fertilizer is being used. Now, so many farms in the world do not have an address, but we still have lat long. Let's say you are a telecom company, you want to monitor where your towers are, again lat long. So some geographical attribute I'm sure you will have. So we have plotted the countries now. I have not plotted, this guy has gone and plot automatically. Now we want to put that value on top of it, which is consumption. Okay, notice all these became sort of 3D bar charts, and it is showing you higher the bar, bigger the consumption. Of course, this is not a good way of looking at the data even now, because for the same country we have data from many years. This is a sum total of per capita consumption. It still gives you some indication, but it's not exactly what we want to see. Now we have a year column here, which I'm going to put under the time dimension. And now we got something here. This the last year we had in the data was 2011. I had converted it to a date, that's why it's showing it to you like date. I'm just going to change its format so that only the year is visible, and I'm going to make it bigger. So far so good. It's still showing you cumulative consumption. So I'm just going to zoom into some area so that we can see what really happens here. So here is the consumption cumulative total, which is practically not a very useful parameter to look at. But this is as on 2011. Now I'm going to go all the way back. Notice there was no consumption at all in 1960s. Now I'm going to use this blue little thing here and scrub it and come somewhere in 85. Notice this country, whatever this is, was using higher than others. Then this one. Now notice other countries which were nowhere just emerged right now. Nobody was using anything there. And then they've started growing. This is good, but this is still cumulative total. Now I don't want to see cumulative, I want to see the instance, and now I'm seeing good data. Now if I'm filtering on 2011, these bars indicate only 2011 data. If I go back, they show some other data. So notice on the webcast you may not be able to see the animation clearly, but there is a play button and I'm just going to try it. You may see or may not see it clearly, but you'll get an idea. This is actually showing an action replay of what happened since 1960 till 2011. And imagine this happening with your own data about sales, distribution, coverage of products, customer satisfaction, your coverage versus competitors' coverage, and so on and so forth. The data has not really changed, but it has given you a completely different level of understanding which was missing earlier. Some of your companies may have sophisticated, costly GIS systems, but every user is never going to get access to it. Now they introduce Power BI desktop. Power BI. Power is power. BI means business intelligence. Basically, it means ability to understand every useful piece of thing from your existing data so that you can act on it and improve the future. So Power BI desktop is an independent product. It is of course a part of Office 365, but this doesn't require even Excel. Now in Excel, exactly what I'm showing is possible. That's called Power View. Now here I have directly imported this into what is called as Power BI desktop. Power BI desktop can be downloaded from a site called powerbi.com. So now I have imported this file, which is very simple. These are credit card transactions by city, a particular date, which type of card, what expense type was used, and gender of the person and amount. Very simple flat data. Now what am I going to do? I want to create visualizations. So this is something I've already done, but I will show you how to do that. I'm going to add a new page. And now notice on this side I have all the columns. So I want to say by gender, what is the breakup of whatever transactions happen. So I say male, female, and I say this much. Maybe you can't see something there, never mind. I don't want to see it as text really. I actually want to see it as a pie chart. So notice there are lots of visualizations available here. I'm going to check pie chart, and it did create a pie chart. So I'll just leave it alone. And now I want to see by state or city what happened. So I just drag and drop city, and then notice it understood city is a city, so it actually plotted it instantly. This requires internet connection of course, but it did plot it, and that's done. But notice here, if I zoom in, there is no difference. All the bubble sizes are same because it's just identifying the city right now. It has not put any data yet. So when now we put amount, then those things will change. So I drag and drop amount on top of it, and then depending on the size of transactions there, those bubbles will differ. For example, here if you go, smaller cities will have smaller bubbles, and obviously bigger cities will have bigger sizes. Now this is random data, so you still don't see much variation, but notice here if I go, this is this and this is smaller. Alright, so far so good. Like that there are multiple visualizations, and let's put one more, card type, just to show you a type of visualization available. I still want to see by card type how people did stuff. I want to see proportionate usage of cards. Now, of course, traditionally we would have used this, which is not a problem. But now there is also another thing available called tree map, which may give you proportions in a much better manner. And if there is a hierarchy, it can even show it to you better. Now imagine doing this on a pie chart. What did I do? First card type followed by expense type. So notice what it is doing here right now. I'm just going to zoom it in so that you can see it. For each card type, it is showing you the proportionate breakup by bills. That is called a hierarchical map, and that's why it's called a tree map. Now imagine what would happen with a pie chart. You can't make a head or tail of it. So there are some nice new visualizations available which you can explore. Having done all this, we want to publish this, and that's another place where we make mistakes. When it comes to interaction with people, we just send emails with attachments. And if the file is very large, then we copy paste pivot tables, add values. That means the other party cannot do any analysis. It just becomes a static report. Worse still, we have everything in pivot tables or interactivity available, but we copy paste them in PowerPoint, which again becomes static, and then present that snapshot to people. Instead, we want to store this on a Power BI website, which is basically a browser-based website. Let me show you. This can be uploaded to this thing called Power BI. So this is the same file being shown here. And now I can share it with people from here. So I just click on share button, exactly like what we did for Word, we are doing for reports. So that is how every activity we perform using Office traditionally is changing for better. Now one last thing I want to show here is, although all this was not enough, when I say share, the other person, my boss, whoever, customer, may not be having full version of PC or laptop. They may have just a mobile phone or something like that, or tablet. So Power BI apps are available on mobiles as well, and this data will now be reformatted for the mobile screen and still shown interactively. Now here the interactivity is very much there, but I don't want to do this interactivity by clicking and dragging. I want to ask questions like this. So notice now there is a text box here and says ask a question. Just to refresh your memory, I'm going to show you the columns in this: city, date, card type, expense type, gender, amount. So now I'm going to just type total. Notice it has given me total amount. By, let's type by. By means breakdown by. Now if I type G, it already understood what are the things in my data which start with G. Of course, gender is a column name, but gold is a type of card, and grocery is a type of expense, So it understood everything across the field names as well as the data starting with G. It's very smart. So if I say by gender, notice what happens. It's showing it to me like this. But if I say by grocery, what is it going to show me? This is total amount only for grocery. So it's smart enough to understand what is being talked about and what is the correct way to show it. Now even if I say by, let's say, gender, it is showing me a bar chart. I want pie chart. No problem. I can say as a pie, and it converts it to a pie. Similarly, if I want to show total amount by city, it's going to show me by city for, but I don't want this like this. I want it as a map, as a map, and it's done. So this is the level of sophistication. This is called simple plain English language being used for querying purposes. So that is how our complete way in which we used to handle data, gather it, clean it, create reports and publish them has changed for better. Okay, as I said earlier, if you have questions, please send me. I want to introduce you to another nice, simple but very effective product called Sway. Sway is a way of creating something like PowerPoint presentations, you can say, and we can actually share those. It can be used for content creation, it can be used for reference documents, it can be used for teaching, all kinds of things. So how does Sway work? When I go to Sway, this is my home tab. It shows me the sways I have created. Some sample ones are also shown and something. So I just say create new. Now I'm going to choose. It doesn't ask you templates. It doesn't ask you any complicated questions first. It says OK. So you just put your title. Sorry. Now those who saw that would have been used to the fact that if I had the caps lock on, it should have been corrected. Remember, this is browser. Of course, every other Office product does that automatically. On browser, even if Microsoft has all the source code of Office, browser as a technology is not under a single vendor's control. It's a global standard, and that basically means the capabilities are least common denominator. So what you are used to in full version of Office is not possible to technically implement online. Remember that. That's the reason Microsoft doesn't have all the features of Office on a browser. If the technology allowed, they would be most happy to provide that to you. Now I just wrote this. Now I just want to show some pictures. So what do? I can add text, I can put numbers, I can put bullets, all sorts of things. I say no, I don't want this at all. I remove it. Now I say add something else. What do I want to add? Picture. So now I can choose pictures, notice, from all kinds of things. Of course, the last resort is from my local PC as well, but I can get all common things. Notice OneDrive is also mentioned here. Now I say no, I don't like all of them. I say upload. Now it will ask me my local things. So I'm just going to go to sample pictures and I'm going to say Office, Microsoft logos, and I'm going to just put some logos, the same ones, and then I put them. Now notice it's going to upload them and so on and so forth. And let's say this was my presentation. Then I say preview. Notice it changed the font. It didn't ask me what style I want, and it put some nice background behind, and it has given me navigation for next slide, previous slide kind of thing. When I went there, it is showing me those guys. It has automatically decided how to show them. Now, of course, I may not like exactly what it does, and I can control that, but notice without too much trouble, I have got to this point. Okay, so this is the first level. Now what I want to do is group them. So I'm going to just select them one by one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And notice what options I am getting now. I'm saying group. So all these become a group now. And now when I see the preview, notice what happens. I go to the next step. It has shown me this kind of preview now. And if I'm seeing this on a mobile phone, it will automatically dynamically adjust it to the mobile device aspect ratio. So this is a kind of software which is very easy to use, and internally it is applying a lot of talent and thought process to implicitly give you better design output without you having to be a designer. Of course, in PowerPoint I could have created this, but I would have to know how to resize, how to restructure, how to align. Here, those minor things it is not taking care of. Of course, this is a very primitive thing I made, but this is just to show you how Sway is available. Many customers who have Office 365 don't even know they have Sway. So just notice it. Now the last thing I want to show you is groups, and that's where collaboration really flies nicely. Groups is a method by which we have a team and we want to work in a team. Normally we work in a team by sending all kinds of messages to each other, trying at least to keep each other in sync. Then of course, if it's a new initiative, multiple people from departments working here, cross-functional team, virtual team, multi-locational team, there will be some common agenda and some common calendar. Let's say it was a product launch or whatever, a large recruitment drive or an event, whatever. It could be not an event, it could be just a team focusing on how to improve quality. So there will be meetings, there will be interactions, there is a calendar required. And during meetings, people will take notes. They may be doing independently some research on the topic, they will take notes, All these are floating to each other using emails and attachment, which is a nightmare. So now what do? I'm going to show it to you live on Outlook. I go to Outlook if you have Outlook. If you don't have Outlook full version, you go to Outlook Web Access or OneDrive. In many places in Office 365, you have things called groups. So groups are a place where something to be done can be created, something to be done in a group or a team can be done. And no, in this set of people. And I'm going to add them immediately, but whenever I'll this group, it's just going to ask me names of people. And once this is done, a group is created. So what is this group really? This group is many things getting created in the background. What does that group really mean? First of all, that group gives you a sort of a OneDrive for that group. So that's called files. These are group files now. They are not going to go leaks one things. It didn't do anything special, they just created that. Similarly, I get something called conversations, which means all the emails related to this group. And when I'm trying to send these people now, just and there is a OneNote notebook where people can actually go and interact. OneNote notebook is a shared notebook. What does that mean? Whatever I type, others see. Whatever others type, I see. And OneNote is again, like all other things, an app available on all devices. So I may do the serious work of research and detailed meetings using a laptop with OneNote. But when I'm on a customer site or I'm somewhere else, the same notebook and contents are available to me on my mobile device as well, whether it's Windows, Android, iOS, doesn't matter. So essentially, what did group create? This was a delivery list. It created a place where the files can be synced up with my personal files which are on OneDrive. Then it also allows you to sync in case I want to carry my laptop, because by default everything is on server, because there is a sync. And when I'm about to send files to each other, it helps me by saying, why are you sending files? Why don't you just link them? So I'm just choosing them and sending it to people. They will get automatic access to it, but no file is moving around. And calendar is also nice. This is a shared calendar for that workshop which I just created. I put one entry there. Now where is this calendar? It is sitting somewhere on the server. It has nothing to do with my personal calendar, which is a part of my mailbox. Now normally what we had to do earlier in older days of SharePoint is to use two calendars side by side and overlap them, which was painful. Nobody first understood that exists, and even if those who did understand, was cumbersome. Now you don't do anything. You are a part of 5 groups. Each group has its own calendar. Obviously those will have their own appointments and meetings. You don't do anything. You just go to your personal calendar. All of them will merge automatically, because even though you're a part of 5 different groups and teams and initiatives, time is common. So that is beautifully implemented here. No special effort from your side. And of course you can take notes on browser. So bottom line is, this is called real teamwork, and all this happened from a user who is not an admin. We didn't go to IT to do all this. Internally it created a document library, it created a shared OneNote notebook, it created a shared calendar and a delivery list in Exchange in few clicks. So people, mails, meetings, files, notes, all put together is nicely integrated into groups. It's using multiple components of Office 365 in a simple, cohesive way, which doesn't inundate you, which doesn't make things complex for you. In fact, it simplifies every activity as a team for you. So I guess we are running out of time. So bottom line is very simple. There are 3 activities we have to do, irrespective of which industry you're from, what is your role or seniority. We have to create things, documents, mails, spreadsheets, presentations, And of course, we have other people to work with internally and externally. So we have to work together. And of course, we have to work faster because of competition, pressure, growth, drive, growth initiatives, targets, and all that. So for each of them, there is a component available in Office 365. And if you use all those components correctly, and the most important part of using correctly is to come out of old bad habits. On day one, those habits were not bad, but because now technology has offered us more, those are irrelevant, they're outdated. So unless we come out of them, put some extra effort in trying out new things, get the confidence that it works, only then you will start using it in real life. So that is all we have time for. Thank you. I write a blog, by the way. I write a blog called efficiency365.com. Let me show you that. Currently it's in migration, so for a few days I'm not going to write, but I write one article every day, and there are 760 articles, I think, as of today on all these topics which I have covered and more. So if you have not seen it before, go there and have a look at it and subscribe to it. If you have questions, you can type them now in the chat window, or the question window rather, and I will address them. So thank you for your time. Those who have to leave now can leave, and I'm sure they'll send you the recording link very soon. Those who have questions, please type them. I'm looking at them as we speak. Is there a limitation on size while sharing it with others? No. OneDrive file size limit is 2 gigabytes. Okay, when you send a file, it's going as a link, so no problem. Is it possible to get older versions of documents later? Yes, I showed you versioning. How many people can simultaneously edit the document? There is no technical limit, as many as technical bandwidth or your infrastructure allows. Technically, there is no limit. In OneDrive, if we share a folder or a file, can we see whom we have shared it with? Yes, I already showed it to you in Word, but if you go to OneDrive, go to Properties or Share, it will show you whom you have already shared it with. Okay. Sudesh has not received the file. If you are still there, you can actually send me a mail. I will make sure older version webinar files are also sent to you. Someone seems to have an activation problem. That's not really, if you have Office 365 fully licensed and you still have an activation problem on some desktop, that means the older version may not have been removed or upgraded correctly. Talk to your technical team from the reseller. They should be able to help you. How to attach an existing mail with a new mail in OVA. Kaustubh, drag drop works in Office Web Access, Outlook Web Access, just drag and drop. We have limited size mailbox, and we have set personal folder as default mail delivery. That does not work in Office 365. In Office 365 and Outlook new version, deliver to PST option has been removed. Why has it been removed? Because that option was relevant in older days where we had very small mailbox sizes on the server, so we had to store those things somewhere. And in those days we just had one PC, so it was not a problem. Now PSTs, even if that was supported, is a pain because PSTs basically means a large file sitting on one machine, not accessible from anywhere else. So that's why PSTs are discouraged, and that's why Microsoft has given you a 50 GB mailbox. You can upload your PSTs to the regular mailbox, and then not only do you get access to it from everywhere, local delivery doesn't matter any longer. Okay, some people like the seminar, thank you. Is Power BI part of Office 365 Pro? No, Power BI is a component of, yes, actually Power BI means many things. So in the context of Excel, it means three things: Power Pivot, Power Query, and Power Map. Now, and of course Power View, four things. So in Office 2016, all of them are built in. In earlier versions, they were available as add-ins. Now, all those put together is called Power BI from an Excel point of view. Now there is a Power BI server version also, where you can upload these reports which I showed you. That has a component called Power BI Desktop, which doesn't require Excel at all. So this server-based Power BI, where I showed English language query and those reports, is a part of Office 365, but it is a free version. There is a free version and a paid version. Paid version has more capacity, more capabilities, and file size limits are less, and so on. But base functionality which I showed you is available in free version of Power BI as well. So Power BI on client side means adding add-ins to Office or Excel rather, and Power BI on server is downloading the desktop and using it directly with the Power BI app. Okay. Is it possible to restrict copying, printing, saving? Absolutely. This is a very good question, Hemant. Many times data is confidential, and when you want to share it with someone, you only want to share it with them, and even that person you don't want them to copy or print or do anything. So that is very easily possible. Let me show you how. If I have created a document, I can go to File and go to this thing called Info. Under that there is Protect Document, and then there is called Restrict Access. And then you just choose unrestricted. Right now I have not saved this, so it is showing me this. Just give me a second. So go to Restrict Document. You will see options where you can actually decide whom to share it with first and what kind of protection do you want to give it. So if you say confidential, for example, the other person cannot copy it. Even if that person physically copies it on on a USB stick and gives it to someone else, it will not open on another machine. It cannot be printed, and screenshots also cannot be taken using Snip tool or OneDrive. That is called information rights management, which is an integral part of Office 365. Many people don't even know that such a great facility is already available to them. Okay, Mithun, Office 360 2016 instant search doesn't work. I don't exactly understand the question, but I have given you my email ID. You can send me a mail. I will try to help you. Okay, next. We have a lot of questions, so I'll take at least 15 minutes more. I know there was a long pause earlier. Actually, it was my mistake. I didn't realize the mic was on, and I am talking and talking and talking, and then I realized. Sorry about that. Okay, another person has not received the link to previous webinars. Just send me a mail. I will make sure you get all the webinar content. Okay, just give me a second. I'm reading all the questions. Some people have left the webinar, so I'm not taking their questions. I'm giving priority to people who are still there. Okay. Mithun is saying the Outlook search doesn't work for current folder as it does for entire mailbox. I don't think that's a problem. I'm assuming you're talking about Outlook. As soon as you click in the search text box, notice that a menu comes called Search Tools. And on the left side of the menu, you will see the scope. Scope means where are you asking Outlook to search. By default, the scope is entire mailbox. So if you want to search only in the current folder, change that scope to current folder and it should work fine. Very nice question from Siddharth. In case of groups, who will be the owner? And if the owner leaves the org, how to manage groups? Very good. Obviously, the person who created the group will be the owner. And like every other aspect of Office 365, the question of person leaving and the data just hanging around remains, and there is an administrative way of taking over an account and then recovering the data. I won't tell you the details, but the details just go to the admin console and search for this particular query. You will find detailed instructions. Okay, big long question I have to read. Hold on. Okay. Is Power BI part of Office 365 Pro? First of all, Office 365 doesn't have a Pro version. Office Client has a Pro version. Office 365 is a collection of all those logos I showed you. One of the logos is Office itself, the Office which we install on our PC or laptop. The version of Office which comes from Office 365 is a Pro Plus version, yes. And Power BI has two meanings. One, Power BI means add-ins on top of Excel. Power Pivot, which allows you to handle millions of rows of data. Power Query, which allows you to gather data from sources and clean it up. Power View, which allows you to create those nice charts which I showed you earlier. And Power Map, which gives you GIS kind of functionality. So that is called Power BI. So in that sense, yes, Excel, the current version which is available 2016, if you download from Office 365, it will have all those components. The web-based Power BI which I showed you where I typed a question and it converted, that's another component of Office 365. That comes in two flavors, free and paid. So free version obviously is available to everyone, and paid version is more scalable. It allows you on-premise sources and many other technical benefits that requires per user subscription like Office 365. How do you sync OneDrive with desktop? Very simple. Go to OneDrive first. There is a sync button. Click on it. It will download a component and that component will allow you to automatically sync. So what I normally recommend is as soon as you start using OneDrive, even if you have not put a single document in it to start with, just do the sync first. And then you don't have to worry because whatever you put there is going to get synced. Now wait, whatever I just said is only on the machine or the laptop, but that's not it. OneDrive app is available on all devices. So I primarily use a laptop, but I may want some of those OneDrive for business files when I'm at a customer site. So exactly the same process works there also. So install OneDrive app on all devices and sync from everywhere. Now devices have limited space, so don't download all the files there, but on demand you should download. On a PC or a laptop, space is not a constraint, then you should download all files so that both ways sync happens and you can still work when you're offline. Okay, Nitin seems to have a problem with Outlook app getting frozen for some minutes. I don't know how to solve that problem. I need more information. You can send me a mail. I'll try to help you. Is Office 365 a new product from Microsoft? Well, new in the sense it's not new now, 7-8 years at least. Those products individually existed. For example, SharePoint was independently available, Exchange was independently available, Link was available. All those have been put in package, so to say, because all these components are required in day-to-day business. And then the next thing which changed is earlier we had to install all those separately on your data center. Now all of them are managed by Microsoft, so that on day one you create Office 365 account for yourself. You can actually create a trial in 3 minutes yourself and test this all out. Everything is pre-provisioned and pre-integrated, so it saves all the trouble which typically goes in installation, configuration, migration and integration. Well, OA or Outlook Web Access is evolved much more than what it was before, but of course there are some features which Outlook full version will have which OA will never have, again due to limitations of browser as a technology. Okay, few more queries left, so maybe 5 more minutes. What are the system requirements for Office 365 product to work in a smooth manner? Now notice Office 365 has some things which run on the server, something which run on a local device. Now what runs on local device is where configuration is under our control. Now depending on the complexity of the documents and data, the configuration is decided. For example, if you handle 100 million rows of data routinely, having a 2 GB i5 laptop is not going to work. You need at least a multi-core laptop with 8 or 16 GB RAM. because even though technically it is capable of handling data, it still needs to use the processor and memory, which are typically the biggest bottlenecks. And if the data is very large, the hard disk speed also is a bottleneck. So depending on your workload, you decide the configuration on the desktop. When it comes to mobile devices and tablets, inherently they are weak. So the amount of work you can do there is obviously lesser. Remember, if you want to do real work, you need Windows and a proper desktop or laptop. There is no compromise there. There is no alternative available. Power BI free is a part of Office 365. The Pro version requires additional subscription. So if you already have Office 365, you can just get Power BI by going to powerbi.com and log in with your normal Office 365 ID. Same ID and password will work there. Okay. Let's go further. Yes, it uses ActiveSync as the protocol by default for Outlook. Okay, someone has Windows search not working on Outlook 2016. I don't know what you mean. Earlier in Windows, when you search for something, it used to show results from email as well as documents. Now in the newer version of Windows, not Office, it does not show email results at all. That is what probably you're talking about. But if you really want email results, type your search condition and then put one extra clause, kind:*email. Then even in Windows search, you will see email results. Okay, what is Delve? Delve is a product which is integrated with whatever you do. So if you're still there, let me see how many people are still there. Okay, lots of people. So let me show you Delve, then you'll understand better. Now notice we have many methods of communication today. We have OneDrive, we have Skype for business, we have Yammer. So we are interacting with people all the time and you want to know how you are interacting with people. So Delve allows you to actually understand who are the people whom you work with most commonly, what are the documents you work on most commonly. So it has a concept of popular documents. What does that mean? Documents which you have been working extensively. These are the people whom you work with. It will give you a list. In my organization, I have just few people with me, actually me, my colleague, that's it, two of us. So it doesn't matter much, but in a large organization this matters a lot. In fact, Delve has a server component called analytics at enterprise level, where it actually does this kind of analysis of who is working with whom, who is interacting with whom, how often, in a large scale. And then it actually is able to tell you this department and this department are not interacting much, and that may actually give you some inputs about some team building exercises or structural changes in your HR strategy and so on and so forth. So this is Delve. It shows me documents. For each document it shows me the details. There is a concept of board where I can randomly assemble documents into common topics and so on. So on the face of it, it looks like a Pinterest kind of UI, but each one of them is a document which I worked on recently, and then you can do a lot of stuff with it. Of course, you can discuss that on Yammer. You can add it to decide who you have shared it with, and of course, you can send a link to people. So you will notice that within Office 365, multiple components give you overlapping features. Why is that? Because where you are, all the relevant features should be available. So if you are in OneDrive, you shouldn't have to go to Outlook to send a mail. You should be able to send it from there itself. That's why you see lots of features, but they are not randomly put there. They are put there with a thought process that what you need should be available at the place you should need it. For example, here I'm having a meeting, and just to show you an example of integration. This is a meeting. I want to take notes. I just click on right click here and say take notes. Now obviously that's going to open OneNote, and in OneNote it's going to ask me which notebook should I put it in, because logically I should create lots of notebooks based on the kind of work I do. So it's asking me which notebook does this belong to, and when I do that, by default it doesn't give me an empty page. It actually gives me all the details about that meeting, so I don't have to go back to Outlook to check the agenda or who is attending or attachments and so on. Not only that, notice I have called 4 people here and one of them may be missing, didn't attend. Some of them have said tentative. Now this is a demo meeting, so you are not seeing it, but in real life someone is tentative, someone is accepted, someone has declined. That information is also shown here. But more importantly, let's say the finance person is not in the room and we are discussing the remaining 4 people, but now what is happening? We need some clarification from that finance person and that person is missing. What would you do? You would pick the phone and call them. But now we have Skype for Business, so I could chat with that person on Skype. But where is Skype? I have to go to Skype, then search for finance and then look at whether it is green or red. No, that would be cumbersome. So notice what I'm doing here. I'm taking my cursor to this guy called finance, and what happened? It opened Skype for Business UI here. So if this person is available, I can just disturb him immediately, get inputs, and that is called faster work or instant messaging. But right now we started with Outlook. We are sitting in OneNote and Skype for Business is integrating with it. And potentially this notebook could have been sitting in OneDrive or a group so that multiple people would be able to see what notes I have taken. And lastly, action point. Suppose there is an action point. Now this becomes an action point. It should go in my task folder. I right click here and I say convert it to a task and show it for tomorrow. This is going to talk backwards to my Outlook and that task is already there. That is the kind of thing we are talking about. It's not only individually that people are going to find it useful as products. All these are designed with integration in mind. Okay, so I guess I've finished all the questions so far. I guess we have to wind up now. So thank you again for your patience and your time. If you have more questions, feel free to send me a mail or post queries on my blog. So go back, explore more, learn more, apply to your business context and grow faster than you have ever thought before. Thank you.